Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Coach Cody podcast. It's hard to believe that we're almost all the way through May. And I don't know where the time has went, but I can't say I'm extremely mad about it because this year has been a lot. It has been a challenge. And I think sometimes we have those years where we excel and we thrive. And then sometimes we have those years where we struggle. But they are some of the biggest learning lesson types of years. And so that's why they're kind of both important. And some are more fun than others. The learning lesson types of years are not my favorite. But, as that one saying goes, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I know that phrase isn't always welcomed because, what doesn't kill you might also just traumatize you and not necessarily make you stronger. But it does kind of show us a lot about ourselves, right? When we're going through tough times, it can expose our weaknesses. It can expose our strengths. It can show us what we need to work on or what we're, solid at, right? So this has definitely been, I guess you could say, I don't know if I'd even say weakness exposing year. I think it's more of one of those years of, it's just a huge learning lesson. One of those years where you make a decision that you're like, yeah, I'm never going to do that again. This is all very vague, and I might go into detail later, but for now, just know if you're on the struggle bus or if this is a learning lesson type of year for you, you're not alone. And there will be a learning lesson that comes out of it at the end. We might not know what it is right now, but sit tight. If anything, it just means you won't make the same mistake twice. Hopefully. Do not do that. But yeah, just sit tight. Time's going to pass anyways. And as they say, it will get better, or it does get better, even if it doesn't seem like it. So anyways, moving on. If you haven't listened to last week's podcast yet, highly recommend you do. I did a deep dive into some fat loss myths. That's a really hard phrase to say without developing a lisp, by the way. Fat loss myths. Got it. Okay. I did a deep dive, and if you're new to your fitness journey, just starting out, or not, highly recommend going and check that out so you don't fall victim to any of those myths, so that your progress isn't delayed or that you don't get frustrated, because it can definitely be some misleading things on the internet. And I want you to get the most out of your hard work, and I want you to keep progressing forward. So make sure to give that a listen so you don't fall into any of those traps. But today, I wanted to talk about something nutrition related, which will be healthy eating with a busy schedule, which is pretty much everybody, right? I don't think I've known one person that's been like, oh yeah, I have all the time in the world to meal prep and eat healthy. So don't give me any tips on how to eat healthy in a busy schedule. We're just all kind of busy, right? So this probably applies to everybody. And you know what? I hesitate doing these types of podcasts, or maybe it's a blog or video or whatever, because sometimes when I feel like I'm giving out tips per se, it's almost like giving someone a recipe or a cookbook, and then they know how to make something now, but then just kind of like put it on the shelf and then it collects dust. So there's a high chance that a lot of you already know these tips, but maybe need a refresher, maybe need a little bit of encouragement to restart, or, pull that cookbook off the shelf, dust it off, try a new recipe, get started with things. So maybe these tips are old, maybe they're kind of cliche, or maybe you're like, yeah, that doesn't work for me. Well, let's see if we can give it another go, right? Okay, so healthy eating on a busy schedule, like I said, is an issue we all have. So let's kind of dive in with some strategy, tips, things that might help you. And ultimately, of course, you are the one that has to implement these strategies. If you don't implement them, then you're just going to kind of, stay in the busy schedule and, just kind of spin your wheels. So if you want to try to get out of the whole hamster wheel, spinning your wheels, I recommend giving these tips, at least some of these tips, a bit of a go. All right, so tip number 1, plan ahead. This is one of those ones that seems kind of obvious, but yet it's the one that we struggle with the most. So I would say dedicate some time on the weekend to plan your meals for the week. Plan some time to go grocery shopping. and set aside some time to meal prep. And this is if you don't work the weekends. We all have different schedules. And do it on your weekend. So maybe you work during the week and you get like Wednesdays and Thursdays off, and that's technically your weekend. So then just do these on your designated weekend. So when I say weekend, I don't mean just Saturday, Sunday. I mean for all folks, even if your weekend isn't technically on the weekend. But so block off time, schedule time to meal prep, to plan. This is very important. And I know it can be sucky to dedicate part of your hard-earned restful weekend to getting in the kitchen and meal prepping, but it will pay off in the end because you'll get more rest during the week, especially because, you know, more so when you need it, because maybe you just had a long day at work, and instead of having to go home and get in the kitchen, you've got food ready to go for you. Or instead of ordering out and consuming things maybe you shouldn't, you've got food ready to go for you. Healthy foods that fit your macros, calories, or just are healthy in general. So prepping in advance saves time, keeps you from making not so great food decisions in the future. So I might give you some more tips on how to plan ahead here, but next biggest thing is keeping it simple. So if meal prep takes you hours and hours, chances are you might be overcomplicating it. And I mean, in the beginning, it's going to take you longer because you're learning how to get in the groove. You're learning how to get into the routine of things. And if you haven't, been in kitchens long or haven't been cooking long, it's definitely going to take you more time. It's okay to be new at something. It's kind of like when you start a new job. You don't know your way around. You have to ask a lot of questions. It'll take you 10 times longer to do an activity or task than, like some other guy that's been doing it for 10 years. And the longer you're working there, then you become the person that some new guy comes up to you and is like, hey, how do I do this? And then you're like, holy shit, you're taking 3 hours for something that, it's all the same. You have to practice, you have to get into the groove, and you have to find your, system. So keep it simple. Don't go cooking, fine dining meals for your meal prep. I know a lot of folks are like, I can't eat the same thing every day. And I get that. So what I would do is make, 2 menus or 2 different types of meals, and you can rotate between those meals. That would be the simplest way to do it. If you're cooking too much variety from, in one week, so you can change up the menu the next week. But if you have too much variety in that 1 week, it's going to take you a lot longer in the kitchen because you might have several different proteins. You might have several different sides. So what I would say is keep it simple. Maybe do like chicken breast and then some ground turkey or ground beef. Keep it to those 2 proteins. Then maybe do 2 vegetables, broccoli, asparagus, and then you can do 1 to 2 carbs. Maybe just do rice. Perfect. Cool. You're done. Cook off a big pot of rice. You've got that ready for the week. Or you could do some sweet potatoes. Bake those off in the oven. Then you got that ready for the week. You can just grab it and reheat it. So that's what I mean by keeping it simple. So just make sure they're quick and easy to prepare recipes. And if you do want some ideas for some quick and easy to prepare recipes, I do have a cookbook that is still free right now. It is called Shit You'll Actually Cook. I created it like 5 years ago, but I didn't actually do a great job of advertising it when I first released it, but it is still there and it is still applicable and helpful, and hopefully you'll find it helpful. So if you would like the link to that, I will put that in the show notes so you can get your free version of the digital cookbook if you don't have it already. If you do have it, open it up, get a refresher, find a couple recipes you would like to cook, and then make that your meal prep for the week. All right, so next one, healthy snacks, with quotations around the snacks part, because I always, I kind of have an issue with the word snack, because when I say snack, generally folks will imagine, let's say, some pretzels, like a bag of pretzels, chips, crackers, cheese and crackers, that kind of thing, like snack foods. And I'm not talking about snack foods. There's a difference between snack foods and snacks, right? So in my mind, healthy snack options would be kind of smaller meal versions of what you've already had, or it could be something like yogurt with some berries, so you got some protein in there, maybe some hard-boiled eggs, maybe some carrots, celery, and some hummus, and whatever kind of floats your boat there. But do try to keep them balanced. So if you still need some protein, maybe do like a hard-boiled egg, some vegetables with hummus. I know this doesn't sound great. Like, you definitely would rather have some pretzels and some cheese and crackers, but that's not going to sustain you. It's really easy to overeat. So that's why I say, like, I would rather see you eating like a healthy sandwich for a snack rather than, like a protein bar or a Snickers bar or a bag of chips, because it's going to be a lot more balanced, right? Protein bars, they're a little bit better because they at least have some protein in it, but the nutritional value of them are not much better than an actual candy bar. So it's kind of a slippery slope with protein bars. They're okay when you're on the go or if you're traveling, because sometimes it is the best option. But if you have the opportunity to create a balanced snack meal, definitely do so. It could even just be like, I feel like one of the biggest suggestions with snacks is usually nuts, but I don't like to give that suggestion because nuts are also kind of easy to overeat. So if you do nuts, like a perfect snack, I feel like would be some yogurt, some Greek yogurt, some protein in there, maybe like not even a handful of nuts, but like a few almonds, some berries to put in there, and that would be kind of a good little snack. Or you could do even a small little salad with some chicken, put some fruit in there so you have some sweetness to it. I just want to give you some ideas of what you could do for healthy snacks outside of just snack foods. That is a huge pet peeve of mine. If you haven't been listening to my stuff long or consuming my content, this might be new to you. If not, I've said this before. Snacks, I'm triggered by the word snacks. But all right, so moving on from the snacks before my head explodes, let's go into batch cooking. So if you're someone who gets overwhelmed by thinking about having to portion out all of your meals prepped out and measured, don't worry. Not even I prep out and measure all of my meals. I cook things in batches and I store them in batches. So I'll cook off a bunch of chicken breasts. Maybe I'll do shredded chicken in the Instant Pot. I will just basically store it in a container all together. Sometimes I'm lazy enough to just pull the bowl out of the Instant Pot and like put plastic wrap over it and store it in the fridge that way. So that way you have protein cooked off and ready for you to go at all times. And protein is the thing that takes the longest, and the thing that we tend to not eat enough of. So having even just protein cooked off and ready for you to go is going to make things a lot easier and make it so you're not going to be tempted to make other choices like, ordering out, dining out, that sort of thing. If you want to do more than just protein, roast off a tray of vegetables. There's broccoli, zucchini, whatever floats your boat. And then a big pot of rice for your carbs. That helps keep it simple, but you also don't have to put it all together at that time. I think if you allow yourself to just cook in batch and store it in batch, that it's going to be a good first step to not get overwhelmed. If you want to portion out later as you get more advanced in the kitchen, totally cool. But I would recommend starting with just cook it off, get it done, and then store it. And then you can measure it out as you need. So maybe measure out like one meal that you are preparing for the next day's lunch or something along those lines. But don't do all of them. That's enough to even have me throw up my hands and be like, I don't want to do this. So just some tips there. Just know that you don't have to have this long line of perfectly portioned meal prep meals in order for it to count as meal prep. So shopping, make a grocery list and make sure to stick to it. Don't go grocery shopping when you're hungry. I'm sure we've all heard this before, because you are more likely to make decisions that are not the greatest, or more likely to go home with items you did not put on the list. And so make sure you stick to the list, because the version of you that made that list in the first place probably wasn't hungry, or was probably thinking of your health goals in mind. So stick to that list. The other version of you made it for a reason, not the hangry version of you. make sure you eat a meal before you go to the grocery store. Or even better, you can order your groceries. If you have the funds to do that, it is a little bit more expensive. But in the long run, ordering your groceries might actually save you money because you're less tempted to just grab things off the shelf. So I know there's this like ordering your groceries is so much more expensive, but how many times have you ordered or how many times have you bought something that you did not intend to, therefore racking up the price anyways? So just some food for thought. Know yourself best. Do you randomly grab things that weren't on the list? If so, shopping online might be a better idea. I know, there's Instacart, there's DoorDash, there's Amazon Fresh, and Walmart. So there's a lot of ways that you can order your groceries online to kind of save yourself from having to make not so great decisions. And there's also the saying of spend more time along the perimeter of the grocery store than in the aisles. A lot of people cringe and squirm at this, but it is pretty true. I spend most of my time in the produce section or over in the meat section because that's where the Whole Foods are at. There's some stuff you might have to go down the aisles for, whether that's salt or dressings, like olive oil and all that stuff and spices are stored in the aisles. So it's not always true to stay along the perimeter because you do have to go, you have to go on the inside sometimes to even get things to cook with. So I'm not knocking the inside aisles of the grocery store, but just be smart about it. And the way I have a different way of I wouldn't say it's different, but so if you don't know, I used to be a cook and I went to culinary school. I worked in kitchens and I did some personal chefing. I did, my own cooking and it did like a cookbook. So I was also an Instacart shopper there for a bit as I was transitioning out of my kitchen job and into the current, job that I'm doing now. So professional grocery shopper here. I'm just kidding. Kind of. Oh yeah, and I worked in a grocery store for a long time, so I know my way around a grocery store. But I don't know why I'm talking about that. It doesn't matter. You're like, cool beans. Keep going. All right. So making a list. I like to start with my proteins because sometimes they might not have the protein that you want. Especially if you can remember during the pandemic, you never knew what meat was going to be there, right? So check out the meats first to make sure they have the proteins that you want because you might need to pivot a little bit with your menu. So that's why I always go to the meat section first, because if I buy the produce first for what meal I think I'm making and then I go to find out they don't have the cut of meat that I want, that's when it's a little upsetting. So go to the meat first, see what they have, get the things you need there, and then I move over to the produce. I get all of the produce that I need. And then after that, I'll go through, the aisles if I need some spices, salt, oils, stuff like that. So that way it's kind of this formula where you're not caught up on like, where do I start? Start with the meat, then the produce, then go from there wherever you want to go. All right. So mindful choices. At some point, or, your schedule might get the best of you, or maybe you really didn't feel like meal prepping, or maybe you don't even feel like eating your meal prepped food. These are all possibilities that could happen. Sometimes we just need a little break. So maybe you decide you want to dine out at a restaurant, or maybe you decide you want to DoorDash something. Guess what? It's not an excuse to go ham or get something that's not geared towards your health and your goals. There are so many healthy options out there. Even if you're ordering on DoorDash, there is plenty of healthy options to choose from. I know for me, when I need a break from cooking, I have like my designated restaurants that I kind of tend to order from because they have options that are as close to what I would eat, even if I'm, dining out. So, or it's like as close as I can get to the macros that I would need for that meal. Because like generally when I'm ordering, it's because I'm tired and I just need a second and I don't want to mess up my kitchen and have to clean it. And that's what generally will have me ordering out. Restaurants. Yeah, like even if you go to a restaurant that's not really known for healthy foods, maybe you're going out with some friends and family, there's so many options still. You can even customize. You can customize things when you need. Don't be a dick though. I also used to work in kitchens. There's a limit to the customization. So don't create a whole new dish on your own, but you can ask for things, like dressing on the side, vegetables instead of fries, or fruit instead of fries, or fruit instead of potatoes, that sort of thing. Easy swaps, right? Okay. Um, so dining out or ordering DoorDash is not inherently unhealthy. There are options. So make sure you just make mindful choices with that. So last but not least, I want to go over proper, kitchen equipment or things that can save you time because, proper kitchen equipment is probably the foundation of it all. And you don't need much, but make sure you have a good knife, one that is sharp and one that does the job. A dull knife, or if you don't have like a chef's knife, it's going to take you about 10 times longer to cook things, cut vegetables, all that sorts of stuff. And you're actually at higher risk of cutting yourself if you have a dull knife versus a sharp knife, because sometimes when the knife is dull, say you're cutting a tomato, that knife might not go through the tomato. It might bounce off the tomato and then hit your finger and then go through your finger instead. So just know sharp doesn't mean dangerous. Dull actually means dangerous. So a nice sharp knife, keep it sharp, maintain it, be nice to it, be kind to it. My favorite ones to get are Mercer because they have a decent price range. They're great knives, but for a lower cost than, say Wusthof or something along those lines. You don't need a $300 knife, but going with Mercer, I think, anywhere between like the 50 to 70 range is going to be a great knife, and they last a long time. They are the knives we used in culinary school, and the ones I tend to get now, because when you use your knives a lot, they tend to get beat up. And I do have some fancy knives, but I notice that I generally will destroy them, especially if you worked in like kitchens. I don't take nice knives. I didn't take knives to. Okay, I can talk. I didn't take my nice knives to work. Actually, I did once, and that was a mistake because I lost it. I found it eventually, but yeah, just don't do that. So a Mercer knife, high quality, does the trick. So that is what I'd recommend. Next up, I'd be cutting boards. Make sure you have a cutting board. You need a cutting board to keep that knife sharp, and not also tear other things up. Cutting board and knife is like the two top things I would say to get for meal prep in order to be efficient and make the most of your time. Other things you can get, an Instant Pot, I would say, is like my number one kitchen tool that I would recommend, along with an air fryer. Or you can get the 2-in-1, so like an Instant Pot / air fryer. You don't need anything else than that. Like, even if you are in a dorm room, you can basically make everything you need in that Instant Pot / air fryer. You can saute in it, you can bake in it, you can do anything. You can make stews, soups, anything your heart desires. So like, even if you don't have access to a kitchen, but you have an Instant Pot, like, you can create a whole menu with that and do all the things. But if you do have a regular kitchen, you can also do things faster, because you can put some things in the Instant Pot and cook like maybe shredded chicken, and then you can use the oven for other things to cook your vegetables or whatever other type of meat you want. So having, like, utilizing all modalities of cooking can help get things done faster. If you can have something in the oven, the air fryer, and the Instant Pot all at once, that's going to be great, because you're going to get things done a lot quicker. So always think of how you can best utilize the kitchen in the most efficient way possible. Don't just put something in the oven and like stand around and wait for it to be done. There's always something to be doing. So if things are cooking, you should be chopping up whatever. So creating a timeline is going to be a really, really smart thing to do. That is something we learned in culinary school. So before you even start cooking, you write down a timeline. So maybe, let's say you're making chicken, rice, and roasted broccoli. You're going to start with the chicken, because that's going to take the longest. Maybe put that in the Instant Pot. Then rice, or actually you might start with the rice depending what kind. If it's microwave rice, you can do that last. If it's rice you got to cook, start with that, because that will take the longest. And then the broccoli. That's probably going to take the least amount of time. Roast that in the oven or air fryer, whichever. So you're going to write down a timeline of like what's going to be number one, 2, 3, 4. You can write a time if you want. You don't need to be that specific. But just knowing you have a path or a game plan to follow in the kitchen is going to be helpful. And this is something that also comes with practice. The first time you step in the kitchen, you might not have any idea of what kind of timeline you're going to have because you're brand new. Totally okay. Give yourself permission to mess up and to just make mistakes. I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to cooking. A lot of people get anxiety about it because they don't want to mess it up. And, that's just how you learn. I've messed up so many things before, trust me. And you really do kind of learn that way. And you don't have to be exact with things. So if you have a recipe, don't stress if it's asking for like a pinch of salt or like a quarter teaspoon of salt. You probably don't have to measure it out. You can eyeball things, and essentially cooking can be stressful, but it doesn't have to be. So try to relax, allow yourself to make mistakes, and experiment. That's just how you get better at things. I'm trying to think of any other kitchen tools. Obviously, sheet pans for baking and roasting, oven mitts to protect your hands from the hot pans, iron skillet. That is my number one pan that I have that I use. I almost use that. I only use like my iron skillet to saute things. I do have like a healthy, earth-friendly nonstick pan for eggs. I can cook eggs in my iron skillet, but it's just a little bit more of a pain. So that's why I got the nonstick pan. So maybe one nice, healthy, earth-friendly nonstick pan that's not like heavily coated with Teflon could be also a good option. Let's see. Other kitchen tools, meat thermometer is definitely one, so you don't overcook your chicken. If you hate chicken, chances are you're probably overcooking it. So test your meat with your thermometer so you don't have to kill it. If you are afraid of germs, use the meat thermometer. So chicken is done at 165 degrees. That's when it is safe. But you can pull it out of the oven at 160 degrees because there's something called carryover cooking. So once you pull that chicken out, it's going to keep cooking a little bit because it's still pretty hot. And that if you pull it out at 160, it's going to cook over to 165, and then it will be perfect. So if you think about if you overcook your chicken, let's say it's 180 when you pull it out of the oven, it's going to keep cooking even higher than that. So at that point, your chicken is dead. So real dead. Zombie chicken. We don't want that. We don't want sawdust zombie chicken. We want juicy, fresh chicken. So pull that chicken out at 160. Use your thermometer. Don't be afraid of it. And experiment. I think those are the main tools that I would say to make sure you have on hand. But yeah, I think that is about, just wraps it up. Let's see. I was thinking this was going to be shorter than it was, but it wasn't really, so I apologize for the rambling. But yeah, so eating healthy with a busy schedule. If you have any tips or ways that you approach busy schedule healthy eating, let me know in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube. Or you can't really leave comments on Spotify, but if you would like to leave a review, that would be awesome. It does help me. You can shoot me an email too if you have any topic suggestions or just any questions in general. You can reach me at trainwithcoachcody@gmail.com. If you are looking to train with me, I do have spots open currently. We're approaching summer, so if you are looking to be summer ready, well, it's it should have started like a month ago, but it's not too late. We can still work on health. Always never too late to work on health. So if you would like to train with me, you can go to my website, www.codyharmon.com, and fill out an application, and I will reach out to you. All right. All those links and stuff will be in the show notes. But thanks so much for listening, and I will talk to you next time. Peace out.